Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I am Emmanuel Oma, and today we are going to speak about education, one of the greatest equalizer of all time. And in Kenya, this seems to be a slight problem with funding resources. The government says that it is not sustainable to keep the basic primary and secondary school education running. But today they came and said, well, we'll just try. And to help us discuss this issue is Mr. Odoyo Owidi, a political analyst and one person who will defend education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
It's good to see you today.
You got it right. I thought you didn't get it right.
No, come on. So, Mr. Odoyo,
yes.
Let's just get into it. What is ailing education sector in the country?
I don't think we have an issue with the education sector. Right now, the noise is about the funding.
Resources
to fund education. You know, during the time I went to school, right from primary school, we were not only going to school almost free, but we were also given the equipment that we required for education. We used to be given a set of exercise books and pencils, and each time they were depleted, they were replaced by the government. Going
primary
forward,
to secondary?
Primary.
Okay.
Secondary school, we used to pay school fees. It was affordable because you find a primary school teacher who would have 3 children in school and they would all be educated without WhatsApp groups, which have now arised, or Harambes. Then we went to the university. Now that one you are pampered. Other than not paying anything for accommodation or tuition, we were also being paid for being at the university. It looks like going forward, Kenya has been going down a spiral road of being unable to fund its education. But currently, the funding of education at the current level, I think the problem is right with the members of the National Assembly. Why?
Because when you look at the latest news that came out, John Mbadi,
yes,
appearing, the cabinet secretary in charge of Treasury, appearing in the parliamentary committee that is responsible for education, said, yes, that we cannot sustain this. If the government admits that it cannot sustain, so where does the hope of Wananchi lies?
Now, we have to identify where the problem is and prescribe a solution for it.
Definitely.
Now listen, the problem is not that the government cannot sustain paying for education at secondary level. The problem is that there are certain leaders who have chosen to have that money that should directly go to capitation so that we have 100% free secondary education into their pockets, into their control. Take, for example, the current budget for free secondary education was 58.4 billion. And when that is split among every student in the country, it comes to 17,000. What is required currently is 22,000. Now the deficit is 5,000. This deficit of 5,000...
And just to be clear, 22,000 is for students who are in junior secondary school.
No, junior is 15. And they are sorted.
Yeah, senior.
They are separate 30 billion.
Yes.
So this amount of money, we have a deficit of 5,000 per student. And that is about, we will require about 13 billion to sort it out. In the CDF, we have 40% of it is supposed to go to bursary.
Education, yeah.
And that 40% is 23 billion. If they gave us just 13 billion out of that 23 billion to use for school capitation, we will have free education in secondary school without having to run to MPs to plead with them to give us bursary.
Now, Mr. Odoyo, yes, I would like you to come in here. The Ministry of Education draws its budget and presents it to the National Assembly.
Correct.
I presume that the Ministry of Education has data on the number of students in primary school, junior secondary school, and senior secondary school.
Correct.
And has the wherewithal to know if we multiply the number of the students with 22,000 or 15,000, we know how much are we putting as a budget. Did they do that?
Exactly, they did that. Actually, if you listen to the CS Finance himself, they had presented a budget to Parliament. It is Parliament that reduced the budget of education. And now they are the same one summoning the CS. Why did they reduce it? They reduced it because they wanted enough money in the CDF that they control themselves. So if there were really people who are interested in education of Kenyans, all they needed to do, even without surrendering that 13 billion, they just say, we will allocate our own 13 billion bursary direct to school capitation. So each one and every member of parliament surrenders money that in total will be 13 billion to finance education in the country, to finance free secondary education. The remaining 10%, they can then give that as bursary wherever they want to give it. And that is not all. They still have enough money to help in the school infrastructure. But I also want to tell you that this country is a country where every elected leader wants to control some fund or another. Maybe not known to you, in 2013, when we started having the so-called women reps, they discovered there were MPs like other MPs who had CDF, but they had now fund to control. So they fought very hard that a fund was introduced which they control.
So members of parliament have consistently said that they don't control the national government CDF. Do you say that that's a lie?
Legally, they don't control it, but practically they do control it.
How?
Because, you see, there is a committee there. That committee that is supposed to control that money, the MP has power over it. Those people cannot defy the MP. We have listened to MPs at funeral calling a mother and saying, I will give you CDF, and they proceed to give. It means they control it. But we have never had the chairman of those committees do the same. So we know who controls it. Practically, the MPs control those funds. By law, they don't. They use influence.
So it's illegal?
It is illegal. What they do is illegal, but they always do it.
But are there now, because it is illegal, it's against the law, is there some kind of repercussions to that?
You know, MPs are playing politics. Even them summoning the CES for finance to go and grilling as to why he did not send the full capitation to schools. Yet they are the ones who made that budget and reduced the capitation for schools. It is mind-boggling because they know. The hoi polloi out there do not understand what is going on in financing education in Kenya. And that is what the MPs are exploiting. So we need to tell them now as citizens, sana you as Gen Z, because you summoned me here as Gen Zs, and you want to hear this. And here is the answer. You as Gen Zs, tell the MPs, funding of education in the country is inadequate because you need to control some money. Surrender part of your bursary money to fund free education. It will even be easy for you. Fewer people will be coming to you for bursary. In fact, nobody will be coming to you for bursary from the secondary school wing.
Because I'm trying to figure it out this way, Mwalimu. If, for example, now we don't have enough money to fund education, parents at home will feel the pain. Currently, there are words that schools will be closed a little bit earlier because there's no resources. And we wonder why.
One thing you need to know is that there is enough money. It's only that a portion of that money is in the wrong hands. It is in the hands of people who want to use that money to win votes, to give to friends and relatives, to reward those who have walked with them the journey. That is the problem we have here today. And before even you ask me the next question, I heard somebody saying that, you know, during Kibaki, we had free primary education.
Yeah, that's true.
And during Uhuru, the secondary education was introduced.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. When Kibaki introduced the free primary education, you discover that there was nothing that was being paid by the parents to facilitate free primary education. Because largely, primary schools were day schools. And the teachers were already being paid by the government anyway, with or without that. But so there was so little that was necessary. That means, what I'm trying to tell you, the budget for making primary education free was so small, any government would handle it. Now, when Uhuru Kenyatta came and purported to introduce free secondary education, he did not even introduce it because it was just subsidized. I am sure you went to school during that period and you paid fees. Yeah, it was not entirely free. Yes, so today they are telling us it was free. It wasn't free. Even Uhuru was unable to capitate secondary schools. He was unable. Each time there was always a deficit. Now, we also must give it to the current president. because he's trying to tell us the truth at every level. And it is this truth we are rebelling against. If he just told us the money will come, and then the year ends, then the money will come, and the year ends without it coming, people probably will be quiet. But he tells you, with the budget that we have today, which Parliament reduced from its original amount, we cannot finance free secondary education.
But Mr. David, there's a vicious cycle here, and we need to understand this. Parliament makes budget. The budget originates from the different ministries.
Correct.
Those ministries are under the executive arm of the government.
Correct.
So, and the president controls most of the MPs in Parliament.
I think that is hypothetical.
It's not hypothetical, because when you look at how members of Parliament behave, especially members from the UDA party, behave, if the president makes a pronouncement, that's likely they oppose, and now they propose. You see? There's a way they behave. And is it that somebody somewhere doesn't want students to go to school?
It is the MPs. And one thing you must know, MPs, which is an independent body called the National Assembly.
By law.
Independent.
By law.
And even if you say that UDMC, how many are they? We have 349 MPs. UDMPs are just a handful. And in fact, as you can see, we have ODM MPs who are probably the majority as of now. Then we even have UDA rebels. So the government has no control over the National Assembly. The president has no control over the National Assembly. In fact, an attempt to control the National Assembly will make things even worse for him. So the people who need to squarely blame in this country today are the members of Parliament. And that is not all. I have noticed a scenario in this country where everything that goes wrong is blamed on the president, not even on the government. On the president. Even when a policeman kills his wife in Kanyadia, they come and blame the president. When the president does not give them orders to do that, what the president has given them is standing orders, which is even made by their force to use.
You will have to understand, people. The president is the executive officer of the country, the CEO of the country. So as the CEO, if something goes wrong in your company,
yes,
you have to take some kind of responsibility.
Of course he does.
Yeah. So that is why probably people say the president needs to at least help us in this.
I think using help us is leaving it too open. In fact, if you are out there to criticize the government, criticize the president, give us your alternative view, find for us the solution, tell us what the president is not doing correctly and how you would yourself do it, so that we see if we can adopt it. Because Kenya is for us all. But if you only come and say, it is wrong, it is not right, but you have your correct position, I think you better shut up and let us do it in our wrong position and wait for us at the ballot box. But telling us we are not doing it correctly, you do not have the correct way of doing it, you do not have a suggestion of how it should be done, you are not helping us.
Now, Mr. Doherty, I want us to compare some budget votes here. The one for State House and education. The one for State House has increased exponentially.
That is an imagination. Nobody has put the figures that last year or during Uhuru the budget was this, now it is this. Those are things that I think you need to distinguish between political statements that politicians make out there without substantiating them, without giving us facts, figures, and logic behind them. You see, the other day, somebody came up and said, the president is building a church at State House at 1.2 billion. First of all, later we discovered even foundation haijachimbwa, nothing has started. Number two, we discovered it was not being built by the government. Number three, they even told us it is illegal to have a church in State House. Already there were 2 churches there built of mabati. Or the churches when it is built of stone is when it is illegal. So the political statement made by politicians is simply meant to bring down their opponents. They are not factual. They are not truthful. They are propaganda. And that propaganda is what controls the media, and the media in turn controls you. You run away with it.
You know, let's talk figures. It's only that I don't have my facts here, but at least it has increased. But when you compare with the budgetary allocation in education, you realize that the budgetary allocation of education was clamped down. That's why Mbadi was saying that we need more, you see. But now you realized you fail to understand where are our priorities as Kenyans.
I love that priority thing. But you see, when you ask me a question of was clamped down, by who? By parliament. You see, when you leave it open, the viewers out there think it is the president because they don't know who has the power to do it. It was parliament that brought it down to the level it is. It is the same parliament that is summoning the CS to come and explain why it is down. And it is that same parliament who has MPs holding the other bit that should plug that hole that is left. In fact, they're having 23 billion and we only need 13 billion to plug that hole. So it is parliament to go and sit and agree, or MPs to go and have a kamkunji and agree. Actually, we are given money for bursary. Bursary is for education. So let us take a percentage of it and use it to capitalize education so that we have a free education 100%. Because if it is meant for bursary, why do they insist on holding it? Because they want to be the ones controlling it.
But when you realize that there's, for example, members of even the national government, CDF, it has been declared unconstitutional. I think the last framework, framework was declared unconstitutional, and then there came a law, and I'm not sure if it has been passed yet. But you realize that members of parliament wants to hold on some cash.
Yes.
Why? Because they are there to represent the people, legislate and oversight the government, not undertaking development.
Because they are selfish. Let me tell you the truth. When you become an MP, first you are paid salary for the work you do. Then you are facilitated for the work you do by providing you with transport, providing you with sitting allowance, everything, and providing you with a way of living comfortably. So you cannot again say you still need another money to do your work. Look at this country. We have, say, parastatals. Parastatals have people called chairmen and board members who are working for the state. The only thing the state does for them,
right?
I was one of them.
Yeah.
The only thing the state does for them is facilitate to do that work by providing them with transport and sitting allowances. But MPs are beyond that. It is not only transport and sitting allowances, they are also provided with salaries and with benefits like loans and with benefits like medical care. Why else do they want to control some other fund?
Then someone will ask you, why do someone need to break an arm and a leg or a bank to be an MP?
Because many of them see it as a way of becoming rich, as a way of making money. But people who have a calling to be MPs, to be leaders, to work for their people, would not do that. They would say, if you want a leader, I present myself. But if you want a controller of the people, a member of a political party, a believer in some people, then you can keep it. That is what we ought to be saying. But people would go through anything, including murder, to become MPs because they want to control the almost 200 million CDF. They want to control the people. They want to have more influence than is necessary. Yet many of them don't even do the work they ought to be doing.
Because I'm looking at, so now we have at least 300 plus members of parliament currently. Do you think that they are all to blame for what is going on in the education sector?
That's a difficult question, but I have an answer for it.
Answer me.
Parliament, each and every individual must take responsibility for the decision made in that parliament. Right?
Yes.
So even now, if you propose that MP surrender as part of the CDF bursary to capitalize education, to provide capitation for education, many will agree. But even a larger number will not agree. They have to be pushed. Gen Z's pushed us here to drop the finance bill. Even the MPs can be pushed to do the right thing.
But here's what I fail to understand, Mwalimu.
Yeah.
Members of parliament are elected in different political party tickets.
Correct.
Currently, we have the biggest political parties are UDA and ODM in the National Assembly.
Correct.
They make laws that relates to the country. Especially post the handshake after the Gen Z protest, they have been seen to be working at least together. in some quarters. And education is something that affects everybody. So why would a parliament vote against that?
First of all, let us correct your assertions before. They were expected to work together, but they are not. Number two, it wasn't even a handshake.
It isn't.
Why do I say they were expected to work together? Because here we have two parties, UDA and ODM.
Yes.
And ODM speaks through its leaders. Their leader, number one, is Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General, who is the spokesman of the political party. And you can hear him talking at cross purposes with the government policy. So ODM and UDA were expected to work together, but they are not. ODM leader himself is criticizing the government on a daily basis. So they are not working together. You cannot go and tell him, we need to do this as an obligation because we are partners. No, they will not do it with you. So I think the only way, the parliament must remain independent and make decisions that are correct for the country without partisanship. Well, parliament must do its job. And the people are watching. So look at your MP, the position he takes in everyday life of the Kenyan citizen, and use that to judge him at the ballot.
But even as of now, Mwalimu, we have numerous by-elections that are coming up. We have one, I think, Beira North, and numerous. I think there's 6 parliamentarians and a Senate for Bungoma, and numerous MCA posts. And you come to realize that there are numerous political parties that, if you get the ticket, then you are as good as elected.
Yes.
And when you get to parliament, you are expected to kind of suspend your thinking capability and toe the line. You understand? So, for example, when a party takes a decision on something, then you can't go against it.
Now, let me tell you where that comes from. Number one, there are emotional issues that if you rely on, people suspend their judgment. It weakens judgment. Issue number one is love.
Oh, love.
When a person in love, the judgment is impaired.
Okay.
The other one is anger and hate, which come
I'll ask
together.
about love. I'll ask about love.
The other one is anger and hate.
Okay.
When it fills you up, your judgment is impaired. You have heard that there are people who tell you, after they have hated somebody so much, that us, hata tukipewa umbwa, will vote for.
Yeah,
right?
I've heard about that.
Right? Then jealousy is another one. Where jealousy is, judgment is impaired. There is no woman who will say the co-wife is dancing nicely. Hata akijaribu namna gani, they will always find a fault.
Yeah.
So these are the things, tools that politicians use to mess up their opponents. For example, in the country today, there are people who have fashioned themselves as an opposition to the President William Ruto government. And what they are doing today is building hate against the president.
But
so that once people have hated the president, their judgment will be impaired. However good the president does something, they will never see.
But really, they have nothing to lose.
What?
The people who are opposing the president, they have nothing to lose.
But they have everything to gain. So they are still, now they are not even telling us who is this, who will be better than the president, because they are still building hate. And once the hate has reached a limit, the people who hate the president now, their judgment will be impaired. They can't see anything good he does. If he says, now let's vaccinate cattle, they think it is wrong. If he says, we have given a budget to education and this is the budget, the MPs go and shoot it down or reduce it, people still come back to blame him. That is how these emotional issues impair judgment of a society, impair judgment of the haters, the lovers, and the jealous.
So what should be done? Because now the president seems to have influence over the members of parliament. We can't deny that.
He doesn't have.
We can't deny that.
He doesn't have.
Eh?
He doesn't have.
We can't deny, because even most of the government legislations come from the government side of the parliament, right?
Of course they do.
Yes.
But so, if they are good things, it doesn't matter. You know, there's an Indian who once told me, when you want somebody to work for you, look for a person who can do that job, whether it's your friend, relative, or enemy, if you can do. Kama sasa ukitaka kujenga nyumba yako nyumbani, and you're looking for a fundi. It doesn't have to be your brother if he doesn't know how to do the job. Look for somebody who can do the job well. Let us not go with these emotions, but people end up doing that. So even in Kenya today, let's look for people who can do these jobs well and correctly. Let us not look for our tribesmen, our party members, and so on. Otherwise, you know, politicians always say, give me somebody I can work with. What they mean is, give me somebody I can misuse. Somebody who will not have his original thoughts, they will use mine. That is what happens. So, going forward, I want you, the Gen Zs, because I'm talking to you all, not only you sitting with me
okay,
here.
okay, I understand. So.
Learn to interrogate issues. For example, I sat with a Gen Z yesterday and asked him, if Deputy IG Lagat would have wanted to kill Ojwang, would he send his 6 policemen from Nairobi, go to Ojwang's home, identify themselves, take Ojwang, go to the nearest police station, again, record it, and identify themselves, come to Nairobi, go to a police station again, record and register it, and then go and kill him? Do you think that would happen?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know about that.
Before you even answer that, let me tell you something as Gen Zs. When you want to know who has done what, the first question that you ask yourself before anything else is, who stands to benefit the most?
But even as we drive this conversation to a conclusion, the president has the best advisors. David Ndii, an economist like myself. And you wonder, okay, the things he's done, some are good, commendable, some not quite. In terms of education, for example, because that's our conversation today, education on its deathbed is not what people envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
You are saying that the MPs are responsible. Can the president, at least even if he doesn't control, as you say, he doesn't control, but can he lobby members of parliament to at least do something about it?
He can.
Why is he not doing it?
I think the whole thing started yesterday. But again, they can lobby them and they refuse. Because you see, these MPs are also the bosses of the president. They can even impeach him. So if they have refused that we are not going to surrender this money, the only people who can bring them to do what they ought to do are you, the Gen Zs. Get into the streets now like you did before and tell the MPs, we want you to surrender 13 billion for capitation of education in this country. If you do not do that, then it will prove my hypothesis that the NCs were sent to the streets by people who wanted to remove the president for power, not people who want good things for Kenya. Because a good thing for Kenya today is free education. And who is impeding free education today? Not the president, members of parliament. So tell them to surrender 13 billion from that for school capitation.
So the Gen Z should go and tell there's a lot of ways that can be done. Of course, the streets is one of them. And I think elections are coming, and just make sure that whatever your member of parliament does is in the best interest of you, your constituency, and your country. That is our time with Mr. Odoyo Owedi, and he has given us some beautiful insights. And of course, we'll just go through them. Thank you so much, Mwalimu, for coming today.
Thank you, my brother.
It's a pleasure.
Brilliant.
Good evening.